You hit record? Is it recording?
For real? Are you lying?
It started recording when you were doing this.
You really can't get good help.
No. So you're recording?
Yes.
Okay. Why are you so quiet now? Hey, don't leave. Stay here.
Pretty sure she's gonna put laxatives in your dinner.
Um,
It's a good idea.
yeah, that's not a good idea.
Yeah.
She'll do it. Okay. Okay.
Okay.
It's the last time she helps. All right. So.
Thank you.
So last week. What did I talk about last week? Talked about. So Sunday. Recap on Sunday. I talked about our filter. Well, I covered our filters again, which we were talking about how if your filter's healthy, catches the bad things and lets the right things come through.
In terms of your thoughts.
Yeah, in terms of your thoughts, yeah. Compared David and Saul and how Saul's filter was broken and just anything went through and he turned crazy and trying to kill David and all that. So we jumped off of that, though. We went from that to knowing ourselves, which kind of, when I taught about it, is like, how does this connect together? But again, we looked at David and Saul. And Saul, he just seemed to, he didn't ever make a good decision. He always made horrible decisions. And David didn't always make the best decisions. He wasn't like 100% making, great decisions all the time. But he still, when he did make a bad decision, he'd go back to the Lord, and he and the Lord would fix it.
Yeah.
So what was the difference? So what was it about Saul that he didn't know himself? Well, if you look at Saul and all of his decisions, so I think where was it? It was in 1 Samuel 13, I believe, where this is 1 Samuel 13, where Samuel told him, do this, this, and this. He basically told him, go somewhere. I want you to sacrifice. We're going to sacrifice to the Lord together, and then the Lord's going to tell us what to do. Well, Samuel didn't show up when Saul thought he was going to, so Saul went ahead and sacrificed anyway, and then ran out to battle. And when Samuel showed up, he was like, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? And, of course, it was a disaster. So the Lord gave him one more chance, and this time he was supposed to go to this town. He was supposed to annihilate everything, all the sheep, all the cattle, everything. And when Samuel shows up, all the sheep, all the cattle, all the goats are there, and Samuel's like, what? Why didn't you follow my instructions? And Samuel had a really interesting retort or answer for Samuel. He said, well, it's true. Yeah, we kept all the sheep, the goats, and the cattle. But we're going to sacrifice them to your God. He said that to Samuel, to your God.
Yep.
So, and I didn't even know that was in there. So I read that and I was like, well, no wonder he had no relationship with the Lord.
It's really hard to be obedient if you don't have that relationship.
Right.
So.
And David was David was, obviously, we have a whole book of Psalms, not all written by him, but most of them, and most of them are prayers of his or whatever. And that's David. That's his heart. And so he knew the Lord. And so what's interesting about David is, so David made mistakes. Probably the biggest mistake was Bathsheba. And, after that, everything kind of went crossways for him. But he knew that that was because of something he did wrong. And when he went before the Lord about it, he fasted, he prayed, he laid, they said he laid down prostrate on the floor, and he was, he was very repentant. And when it came down to it, his son died because of it. Bathsheba's first son died. He got up. They said he anointed himself with oil. He got something to eat, and he said, "It's done."
He went about his day.
Yep. The Lord and I have taken care of this, and this is what it is. And so David, even when he made a mistake, he would go to the Lord. He would talk to him. He would pour his heart out.
Yep.
And that's what. So the thing about, we talked about this last night, Wednesday night, was David would go pour his heart out to the Lord. He didn't hold anything back. He'd cry. He's probably pretty ugly. pretty ugly scene.
Some snot, I'm
yeah,
sure.
yeah, snot slinging. So,
Different kind
I
of
know.
Goliath.
so he, it was ugly, but he just let it all out, and he just said, "Lord, this is the deal." And the Lord would always answer him. He was never. In fact, we talked about this last time. David, I mean, when he entered the city, he stripped down to nothing, and because he wanted to show, I'm humble before the Lord. I have nothing to hide.
Yep.
There's nothing for me to hide, and because of that, there was a very close relationship. And what we need to understand is that in our close relationship with the Lord, we're going to make mistakes, and we need to go talk to him about it.
Yep.
Can't hide it from him. You know, it's like Adam and Eve tried to hide after they sinned, and hide and go seek with God's not. You're never going to win.
Well, and I think, you know, we're hesitant to do that because we don't like the ugliness we see in ourselves when we do that. And we think if it's ugly to us, then it must be ugly to God. But he desires that. He wants that intimacy with us. So I think he's just waiting for us to say, this is what I did wrong, or this is where I'm struggling.
Well, you said last night it builds intimacy.
Yep.
And that, because when you're real, there's a risk in being real, you know, too real with people. There's a risk. Now, God will bring people into your life that you can be real with, but you got to know this is somebody I can be real with, and God will bring those people into your life. But with God, there's no risk. There's zero risk in being real with him. And actually, the people that you can be real with are the ones that are real with God.
That's right.
In their own time. So it's true. We've got to go before him. We can't hide things. And we've said this several times. We love prayer. We're big into prayer. Prayer is awesome. You know, we're from a group that, well, in fact, our denomination is doing 21 days of fasting and prayer, which I got the memo late. So
It's like a day and a half of fasting and prayer. It's close enough.
So, but we're big into prayer. But when prayer is, when you go in and you're just doing all the talking, that's not prayer.
Yep.
When
There's
you're-
no intimacy in talking at God or talking at someone else.
Right. So you need to go in and listen. And that's something that we've been covering Wednesday nights, and we're going to cover that a lot more in February, is how do we go before the Lord and be quiet and think. A lot of people don't like to do that. They want to. That's why, honestly, I have nothing against, because you're a musician, nothing against worship music, but a lot of people like to play loud worship music when they pray because it's a cover.
Yeah.
It's like white noise. I don't have to be quiet and alone with my thoughts because people are afraid of them. And there's so many people that are like that. So, you know, this is where, and I would bet if you looked at David had times where he was just quiet. He wasn't always saying things. He was listening. And I think if you look back to when he got in trouble, he wasn't listening. He was too busy.
Well, one example, we talked about this on Sunday during worship, but in Psalm 73, David starts out, he can't figure out why all the wicked people are prospering. And he's mad at God. He actually says, is it even worth it for me to be obedient and to follow God? And then it says, the transitional point in that chapter is, then I went into the sanctuary. And that's when he went in. So he talks to God, he tells God what's going on, and then he switches to this mode. Okay, God, what do you have to say about it?
Yeah.
And then what we get out of that is one of my favorite Psalms. Whom have I in heaven but you? It's pretty awesome stuff.
Yeah, and he keeps going back to that.
Yep.
But you're it.
Yep.
You're all I got.
And I still trust you.
And I trust you, and I know in the end you're gonna fix it.
Yep.
And we got to do that. And that's, I think, well, we're gonna talk. So on Sundays in February, we're gonna talk about choice. How we have the choice. We basically, God's given us a choice. And there's a lot of people who think we don't have a choice. I mean, it's actually a growing movement right now, especially among the intellectual class. That it's been around forever, but we have no choice. Everything's mapped out, and we just go through life this way. Well,
and it happens to us.
Yeah, it just happens to us. And you got it. Well, that's not true. God's word says exactly the opposite. In fact, there's Christians who believe that we don't have a choice.
Yeah.
So we'll look at the scriptures and see what it says. But one of the things that a lot of people have to do is they just have to make a choice to make a change, a choice to go into worship.
Yeah.
Or a choice to go into prayer and face these things with the Lord that we've been talking about. And it's not an easy choice. You know, we have somebody in our church who said, this is not fun. I did it and it was not fun and I stopped. Then last night, asked that same person, they said, no, it's getting much easier, still doing it. But that person made a choice. I'm going to do this.
Yeah, that's right.
And I'll just be honest about this, because I don't want, one thing I don't want to do is water the word down or water things down. We've been talking about some tough things probably the last 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Really challenging people. And I've noticed people backing off. I've noticed people going, you know what? No, thank you.
Starting to get a little real.
Yep. And, the choice is, because here's the choice. There was a post on Facebook today, and it was talking about why doesn't the church do more? Okay, that was the general thing of the post. And I'm like, well, church attendance is dropping. And of the people that are at the church, and this is a well-known figure that's been researched many times over, about 4% of the people that go to church give money to a church.
Yeah.
So what is a church? I mean, it's, I get emails all the time about needing help from people who don't go to our church. Now, I'm not saying the church is definitely there to help people, but in order, this church, our goal is to minister to individuals, minister to one person at a time, not to grow, mega churches to reach that one person at a time. And in order to do that, according to Ephesians, my job and everybody else who's a minister in this church, who's in that fivefold call or that pastor call, it's that full-time call, is to equip saints to do the work.
Yep.
But saints can't do the work
if they're not around.
if they're not around, and if we're a mess.
Yes, that's right. Yep.
And so Christians are going to have to make, Jesus made the hardest choice of all. I'll drink of this cup.
Yeah.
And then he said, it's up to you to make the choice to follow me. And he never said anywhere that'd be easy. Nowhere.
In fact, he promises it'll be hard.
He promises
It's like,
over
God,
and
it comes
over.
with a dose of suffering.
Yep.
Yeah. Sign me up.
Yeah. And this is where, if we want to help people have to make those hard choices.
Yep.
Step up and, make that choice to get everything in order with God and become part of a church family, wherever that church is, not just ours. There's a bunch of good churches. Become part of a church family and make yourself available to minister to people. And so, that's not popular to say, but it's the truth. God needs people to minister. And Jesus said that, and it's always this way, the field is white. The field is ripe for harvest. Pray for harvesters.
Yeah.
Pray for harvesters. Not pray for that the whole bunch of people would say yes to Jesus. I need harvesters because I don't have enough. Because he looked over and he was like, okay, there's me and 12 others. We're not enough. We need thousands. So what we're going to talk about in February, tough. What we're going to talk about on Wednesday nights, tough. But I think we've seen in the people that went through the Thrive leadership class, which we'll be doing another one of soon. And what we've seen with people, I'll tell you this, I have people that have stuck through it, and I give them tons of credit. And I'm seeing them come out on the other side. Man, I'm amazed at some of the things that are happening.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's really exciting.
Yeah, I mean, God's really stepped into some people's lives and turned some situations upside down. And so
I think sometimes too, when we have to make those choices, if we could just see what was on the other side of the choice, we wouldn't even hesitate.
Yeah.
But we're so consumed with what we might have to give up in order to make that new choice that we miss out. So those people are not missing out. They chose to make that choice.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And the people who don't make the choice, I've noticed this in the people in some of the older generation that have pushed choices off. They're suffering.
Yeah.
And now looking at a monumental choice. So that's why when I reach people that are younger, it's so much easier. Make the choice now.
Right.
And they're suffering. They are. I mean, it's. There's some people I went to the Lord and said, "How do I reach them? How do I get them to go down this path?" But we're seeing it. We're seeing a lot of, and I'm excited because this group that have done this, they are, well, we've seen all the pieces fall into place.
Yeah.
And there'll be a surprise piece on Sunday. Don't tell Michelle. Do not tell Michelle House. Just keep it from her. So I don't know how she hasn't figured it out, but
She's not going to like that at all. She's probably groaning at you right now.
she's yelling at her computer. Matt, Pastor Matt. All right. So, and then Vision Sunday is this Sunday. And we're going to talk about our vision for this year.
Yep.
And again, kind of going back, the pieces that have all fallen into place. It's just been, and it's people.
It's people.
And it's so funny because in December, Laura, our admin here, was coming to me and saying, "Who's going to fill this spot? Who's going to fill this spot?" And I said, "I have no idea." I mean, key spots.
Yeah.
And then I had people come to me and say, "Hey, I want to fill this spot." I'm like, "Oh, thank you, Lord." So it's all been just falling into place, and what did you?
Are you knocking stuff over?
Yeah.
She's fired.
Natalie's behind the camera. Say hi, Natalie.
Or not.
Or not.
Just kidding.
Okay. So, Vision Sunday. We're going to talk about, and we need cameramen too. Camera people or people that do cameras.
Wow.
Praising the Lord back there.
There's going to be some repentance after this.
So we're everybody's falling into place, but we're really getting our, where we are putting all of our structure in place. So, I think when people came here before, we just weren't ready for people, and we
didn't know what to do with them when they came.
Yeah, and we weren't ready for growth. Now we've got people right in the right spots. We've got just all this stuff that's kind of not people are going to see, but they're going to notice the difference of it. And what I'm thinking for, or what I'm kind of sensing in my heart for this year is there's going to be a really big step forward where this stuff is just in place, and now we can step forward. Yeah. And everywhere, I just can't say enough for me as a pastor, because a church is so different from a business. I mean, you hire people and they have to do their job, or you go on to somebody else. Yeah. In ministry, you work with you work with people that come in, and a lot of times, people are flawed, and that's
you work with the whole person, good, bad, and ugly.
Good, bad, and ugly. Work with whole families, which we want, and so it's different. But what's so cool is what you don't get to do in business is you see somebody, and you get to get into their lives and really help them and see them turn 180 degrees. I can't wait. Someday I'm going to bring Jill on here, and I mean that young lady changed so much in front of us. Yeah. I mean, she is just so. I think about it all the time when I think about somebody giving their lives to God. I think about her and her husband, and I've seen some other people here. I had to actually take time and just sit back and think about some of the people that were here when I first got here and what they're like now. And they are different people. Yeah. And that's what makes it so rewarding. And I think this year we're going to see that even more. Yeah. We're just going to see a big jump.
And look back a year from now and see how far people have grown again. It's pretty exciting.
Yeah. So it's going to be, if Brianna's watching, I'm rubbing the leg, and she counted all of my little idiosyncrasies. How many have I done so far? Oh, I haven't done this. Hold on.
A little like slow motion.
Ding, ding. Is that all right? Yeah. No, we need your approval, Natalie. Is it okay? She goes mute as soon as.
It's weird.
Is it recording? Did you hit record? It's not recording, so we've been sitting here the whole time. Okay. So, anything you want to talk about?
I'm just really excited. I've been in this church my entire life, and so and a lot of good things have happened over the years, but I don't know that there's ever been a time where there's been so much excitement and so much. It seems like there's just so much forward momentum with everybody moving forward, and I want everybody to be part of that. Yeah. It's not just about what we do as pastors; it's about what our church is going to rise up and do this year.
Mm-hmm. And just reaching people, reaching the individual, and not, I think one of the things that we got rid of this year is just doing events to do events. Mm-hmm. What were we doing an event for? Just to see how many people we can get in here. Yep. This year we're doing events that minister just to people. If it doesn't minister to people, then we don't do it. And like I said, I see, we just had somebody come from another really good church here today, prayed for us, prayed over all of us, and it was awesome. It was really accurate and very good. And and I'm not thinking, man, I wish that guy came to our church. I was thinking, I'm so glad that guy's on our team.
Yeah.
because we're all one team.
Yep.
And we've got, I've gotten together with the pastors here in town. We got a really good group of pastors, really good group of churches here, and we're really working as a team, and they're humble. We all talk all the time. We have an online group that we talk in all the time, and it's just a really good. I see the churches really coming together.
Yeah.
And not competing.
Yep.
You know, we come up with ideas for each other. We're all going to go to out to the university on the 22nd, 21st and 22nd. Yes, on my birthday. So, but we're all going together. We group our resources, and so it's been a lot of fun. But yeah, I think there's a lot of momentum here, and I just hoping that translates into all the other churches as well. So we got a lot going on.
I do.
Got a ton going on, and so you need to come to church this Sunday because we've got some really good surprises, right, sweetie? There's going to be a really good video.
Yeah,
right?
video announcements like you've never seen before. I promise you that.
Yeah. I think it's going to go viral. How about you, honey? No? So she's walking away. All right, so Sunday, this Sunday, Vision Sunday, February, we've got Choice. The choice is yours. And on Wednesday nights, we're going to be talking about, well, I didn't get into it too much, but we're going to talk about gardening, and basically we are God's garden. So how do we tend the garden? How do we sow seeds of His Word? And we're going to talk a lot about thinking. A lot of that goes to thinking. So on Wednesday nights, we're going to be doing that. We're going to do a 4-week. I did my notes yesterday. It might be like 8 weeks. I got a lot of material. I found a lot of notes I hadn't taught on. So we've got, but that Wednesday nights are really interactive. It's not just me talking. A lot of people ask questions. Last night it was a great discussion.
Yeah.
I really liked the discussion. That to me is way more, it's just a lot more fun when people are talking back and forth. So Wednesday nights we have really good discussions. We're going to be talking about that. So we got a lot going.
It's good stuff.
Yep. See you then. You can just hit stop, honey. Now.